What's up, you guys? Welcome to our newest flip here on 3rd Drive in Mesa, Arizona. We have our wonderful project manager, Ana Martinez here, and our good friend and private moneylender, Allie Flanagan, who's also a phenomenal agent. If you're looking for a great agent in Arizona, highly recommend reaching out to Allie. We are gonna go through this flip. We just closed on this thing. We're gonna go through what the game plan looks like, what the finishes are, what we're gonna be doing, all the fun stuff. So let's get inside and go through it all.
Do it.
So as we first get to the property, here on the exterior, this property has a little bit more cleanup than we're typically used to. The sellers left a lot of junk behind, a lot of the siding's falling off, so there's a little bit more cleanup that's gonna come along with this property. Allie, what are your first thoughts when you see a property like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it has a lot of potential. From an agent perspective, what I noticed driving in, there's some other homes that have been renovated, getting this one to where it needs to be to sell for the most amount of money. There's a lot of potential there. So I'm excited to see what the ideas are.
I think it'll be great for a first-time home buyer that's coming into this neighborhood, right? It's a great location. And like you just mentioned, a lot of people are getting fixed up in the neighborhood too. So as people start to enter the neighborhood, it has less of that danger feeling almost, you know, and more of that homey feeling.
I'm even driving up, like talking about what you've mentioned. I mean, this is the Ugly Betty house. Like you said, I think it has a lot of potential. I mean, it just needs to be cleaned up and some love, and she'll be good to go.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I think Gilbert Road is like one of the staples of the Mesa Gilbert area. You're not far from even downtown Gilbert, downtown Mesa. This is one of the most desirable areas of Mesa that I think you can be in. So I think that's really important when you're looking at Mesa, like the specific neighborhoods and how it differs from like maybe Old Mesa or like further west. So
Right.
Absolutely,
that's a good
yeah. Now this property is almost 1,500 square feet. It's 1,480 square feet. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, and it needs primarily cosmetic work on the inside.
A few changes inside that will help kind of with the flow, just what you guys will see right now. But I won't get too much into it. But for
Let's
the
get
most part,
inside.
it looks great.
So as we enter into the house, we are met with this awesome living room area, which
Looks like a room.
it's a little awkward.
it feels like a bedroom almost, right? It's a little bit awkward. When we look at the exterior of the house, I try to look at what the trusses look like when it comes to the roof, and it looks like the trusses are all going this way, which is really, really awesome for us because that means that this wall is not load bearing. So the first thing we're gonna do, just like every flipper dreams of doing, right, is removing a wall right when you first walk in. It's gonna open up the space entirely because on the other side of this is the kitchen, which we can go take a look at that as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we're walking in now to what is the kitchen. We just had the gas company out here. The city of Mesa was out here getting all of our utilities turned on. So it looks like the original owner of this property was trying to do some sort of renovation. I don't really love the flow of this. What we're really looking to do is with this wall removed, we're going to have a 7-foot island that's going to be centered right here. And we're going to be moving this sink and replacing it with a stove range. So it'll be a stove with our upper cabinets, with our lower cabinets, and we're going to wrap the kitchen around this wall on this side. We will be closing this in and turning this into a window and actually placing the sink on this side. So that way people can look outside while they're doing their dishes, all the kind of good stuff. They can cook right here. We'll keep continuing on with countertop. We'll have our pantry, and then we'll have our refrigerator, or flip-flopped. We'll see what makes the most sense. What we're also going to be doing is raising all of these soffits. You can see on this other side of the house, they actually have the AC ducts coming from the ceiling, which is how we would prefer to have it. The soffits being dropped just make it feel a little bit more small. So at least in the kitchen area, we're going to be raising all of these soffits so it feels much larger, it feels much bigger, and then we're going to be capping that right around here. So we'll keep the drop ceilings on the hallway because there's not really a need to raise all the ducting when we can just do it for just a small space here.
It saves money. That's really what it's about.
Yeah, no, I think that's ideal. Every buyer these days wants like the open concept. And so I think that makes the most sense for the current footprint too.
Absolutely. Now, what are you seeing right now with buyers? Because we are in a weird market right now. So for anybody that doesn't know, it's 2025, it's May. We have definitely had some interesting things happening in the market. And I know you're shifting to working with a lot more buyers. What are the things that you're seeing from a buyer's perspective that they're looking for?
They have a little bit more of the upper hand with negotiations right now. And so we're seeing a lot of seller concessions, which are a credit from the seller to actually buy down the interest rate, which I think a lot of buyers, you know, especially in this price point, the affordability might be a little bit more of a factor, and what the monthly payment is, because that's really what buyers care about, is not necessarily maybe the price, but what they're paying monthly. And then when it comes to a flip, you know, just keeping in mind little things that, you know, maybe could stand out, you know, for a first-time buyer, home buyer, you know, because that's probably, you know, a family who might be purchasing this home. So things that buyer might be looking for might be a little bit more desirable.
I noticed that in Mesa from my previous flips, things that had more of a colorful kitchen tend to do a little bit better. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. We're thinking about going with a green, like a dark green slim shaker cabinet in here. Would you recommend something like that right now for buyers, or would you go a little bit more neutral right now?
It really just depends on the buyer. I think a pop of color isn't gonna hurt, but I maybe more so like in like the backsplash or something like that, rather than like, you know, like a more neutral cabinet and then pops of color in like smaller areas. I don't know. I could be wrong. Every buyer's different, you know?
I like that because we actually have to take our budgets down a little bit too. And so if I end up going with a white cabinet instead, right, we can actually save a ton of money, several $1,000s actually. Anna, anything you want to mention while we're still here in the kitchen?
I think once we remove this, because it is a little dark, adding that window, I almost want to extend it, maybe make it a little bit bigger of an opening for that, just to allow more light to come in. We have that slider.
It's a big old slider.
Yeah, it's huge. What's up with that? Anyway, I like the idea of maybe going with maybe a white cap shaker style versus a slim.
What about can lights, anything like that? Do you think we should be adding can lights?
With that natural light in mind, and just in general having more lighting in here, especially with the 7-foot island, they're gonna spend most of their time here.
Yeah.
Anytime you see Architectural Digest or any kind of design, interior design house, right? It's always, you have these staple pendants that make people go, oh, wow, this is so cool. So I think maybe adding pendants would be a nice little touch here as well. They see the kitchen right here. If we have the pendants, I'm like, I want them to be like, holy crap.
Right.
Like, this is my house. This is the place.
The next thing we're also gonna be focusing on is replacing the flooring throughout. And of course, with that comes along replacement of baseboards and trim, which is very important. Are we keeping the doors on this property?
I don't think we're gonna keep the doors on this property. I think that we had 1 or 2 that were damaged. So at that point, we're like, let's just change them all out.
Okay, great. Well, then that's perfect. We are also now gonna be talking about the bathroom, which I rather not go in there, to be quite honest. It smells really bad in there. Are you gonna want me to add can lights in the hallway, or you want me to keep
No,
that?
not in the hallway. We'll keep the sconce.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can lights and adding as much can really change your budget. Like even like the slightest things, just because they charge like $100 sometimes per can, depending on where wiring is set and where there's a switch or if there's an existing thing. That's a good thing for me to kind of keep in mind moving forward, is like, do we absolutely need to add can lights in every nook and cranny, or can we work with what we have already?
No, I think that's good to know. Even for me, like just learning about flips and, you know, like where you can save on costs. I think that's a really great point. Obviously there needs to be some light, but like if it's a bedroom just with a ceiling fan and a light, I don't think that that's an issue.
So we have our bathroom here. We have an existing shower tub insert. I used to, over the past year, always just do the shower tub inserts, especially in neighborhoods like this and in price points like this. But with the market where it's at right now, like we just talked about, where maybe we're not getting the ROI on everything that we're doing, we're most likely going to tile this because we want to stand out. We want to be the best house on the block at the best price point. We call it the make me move house. The house that makes you move, that you go, I have to have this house. Now, one cool thing with this property when we bought it, it already had a new roof and it had a newer AC unit that was already installed in the property as well. So we do have our closet where we used to have our old furnace. So we're gonna get this closed up. There's some drywall work that needs to be done, and we're gonna add an actual normal door on here instead of this weird, funky thing that's going on. Working our way over to the primary bedroom here. It's a decent sized primary bedroom. It's not massive by any means, but it gives you everything you need, especially at the starter price point. You have a good sized closet here, but again, we have plenty of storage within the house because they moved that furnace, and then we have storage right next to the furnace as well.
You want to talk about how we're actually deciding to keep the existing windows? I know that's something that we always go back and forth. I would love to get your kind of perspective on that.
I think it probably would be worth replacing the windows. I think that might be something that a buyer, if you're comparing to other active homes that are on the market, you know, at a flip, is it going to be one of those things where they're just like, oh, is this just a lipstick flip? And, you know, we still have to invest in like replacing the windows at some point kind of thing. From buyers, I think from the first impression, you know, walking in, if it's still the original windows, but everything else is renovated, it might be like, ooh, is it worth it?
But for us, we're typically looking to see, hey, are these things operable? And hopefully these are all operable. Just because with it being entry-level price points, can we make those changes if we need to, if it's not selling? Yeah, it's something obviously we want to determine on the front end. All right, let's check out the primary bathroom here as well. Not too big of a primary bathroom. It's similar to a lot of the houses that we've done where we have the drop downs here. You saw this in Old Colony, you saw this in several houses. We'll do our tile that goes vertically laid all the way up in here because it's gonna stretch out the way that we perceive the space. So it's gonna make it look taller, make it feel a little bit bigger. So that'll help out here. And then we're gonna do our standard vanities that we always get from Lowe's that you guys have seen, the fluted vanities that cost us like $300 all in. These are both gonna be 30-inch vanities. So we're just gonna get 2 of those, slap them in here, and I think it's gonna look beautiful. It's gonna be more elevated than the majority of the properties that we're seeing sell in this area. So people are definitely gonna get that luxury feel that they're needing in a new house today. So over here we have 2 more bedrooms. Now these are just your standard typical bedrooms. There's nothing too special about them. Each one has a decent sized closet, which is great. Luckily there's no popcorn ceiling, so we're gonna be doing just a fresh coat of paint and some touch-ups. That'll make this a lot easier. So looking forward to that. That'll be easy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the laundry room,
Yes.
is that in the backyard? Is that
It's
where
in the
we're getting?
backyard.
Okay. Putting like a stackable washer and dryer on the interior compared to maybe a laundry room that's outside in the shed. Is that something that is worth in terms of like having to run plumbing and electrical?
I'm trying to not overthink it just because I know the extra cost of running the plumbing, because we'd essentially be doing it right where you're standing, right? Because I've definitely thought about it. Do we put a stackable in here? It's nice to have. So it might not be bad, especially, but if we are getting rid of this and we did a stackable, for example, which we wouldn't be putting the actual stackable in there. We have storage back here. I don't know what our plumbing looks like that's back over there either though.
Maybe even looking at the comps, like if they're all in the shed or in the lawn, you know, whatever it is out there, maybe it just doesn't make sense. Like a buyer's, they're not gonna necessarily value having it interior if it's stacked, you know.
Right.
So.
Okay. Let's look at the comps. All right, so working our way outside, we have our laundry area that's right out over here. So it's where our water heater is right now. I don't love the layout of how this is right now because they have the water heater and then you'd have to have a washer and a dryer essentially on each side. Unless we kind of rotated it. So we'd already have to move this plumbing that's on this side. So maybe just utilize this as storage instead, right? It's extra storage for people, and then we move and do a stackable on the inside. I kind of like that idea actually.
I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to complain about at least having the wash and dryer inside compared to 115 degrees in the summer having to do laundry.
Now back here, the backyard is not beautiful by any means. We will be getting rid of this whole Arizona room, this aluminum, whatever the heck it is. The backyard itself is a bit gross. You do have to get a little bit creative because we have a huge mound of dirt on this side. One of the highest line items every single time on every single project is always landscaping. And to me, landscaping makes or breaks the way that a house actually looks on the market. We used to not put a huge budget behind landscaping, but more and more, we're just starting to really up that because we want everything to look so new and so nice. So we're thinking clean up the entire thing, maybe just do a re-rock back here. It just becomes a little interesting because like, what do we do with this dirt mound?
Yeah, I think re-rocking the entire backyard is probably for sure worth. I think that could just lead to questions of like, what is that? Like, what are we gonna do with that? Is that, you know?
We have to demolish this shed thing. And then we remove this.
The electrical just looks a little bit janky on the other side. Luckily, we have an upgraded panel already.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Plus.
That's something people, I guess, are asking for now since that just happened to me.
That's kind of the part that sucks is that a lot of your budget will sometimes go into line items that necessarily you don't really get to see the value per se. We paid X amount to move dirt from left to right, you know, and you're just like,
to
dang
even
it.
this out.
Right.
Let's work our way over to the front and get some ideas on what we should do out there so we have good curb appeal. That's the one that I'm really
That's
the most,
biggie.
what are we gonna do with
We
this,
have to
right?
attract
We gotta
that
get creative.
buyer over here.
So the front yard, again, this is like, what do we do exactly? This is different rock. We have 2 different types of rock out here, and neither of them are the same as the rock that we have in the backyard. I love that we already have some mature plants, so we can keep those. That's nice. It adds a little bit of curb appeal. But do we remove all the rock? Do we take all the rock and just mix it all up and throw it in the back and just have a bunch of different types of rock in the back?
What are your thoughts on, in terms of like a walkway up to the front door? Because this is a little strange. Like we've already noted, like when you walk in, you've got the garage door there, and then you kind of have to go around to the front. What if you did some pavers walking up? Again, I don't know what that budget looks like.
Like going like this.
Right, but then you're gonna have to remove this little pony wall here.
That actually lines up perfectly for the most part.
And then you could just do rocks on both sides, and at least there's a little bit of curb appeal. And I think from a buyer's perspective, like they're not gonna be worried about the other landscape.
Right, decisions.
For a home like this, maybe in a higher price point, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
Totally. Like if this was Tempe, and this is the house we were doing, and it was in Tempe, I would definitely do that, and I'd probably turf each side and make it look really cute. But again, we're talking about $600K price point for a house like this in Tempe if it was fully done up like that, you know? Let's go back under the carport. Let's talk about the numbers so we can tell you what this deal is gonna look like, how it's gonna shape up, and where our budgets are gonna be at. So let's break down some of the numbers on this deal. We bought this property for $292,000 from our good friend Nate Longfellow. So we have a purchase price of $292,000 plus the $70,000 in renovations. That's gonna put us all in at $362,000. We're looking to sell this property for about $435,000. Our appraisal value on this came back at $450,000. Appraisals do not mean that's where the property is going to sell at. Appraisals are essentially what a loan company is using just to make sure that they're doing a safe investment, that they're giving the right amount of money to somebody to purchase a property. So we want to make sure that we're at least hitting those appraisal values, because let's say this did sell at 435 and then all of a sudden the appraisal comes back at 400. Now we're going to have to take the haircut on that, because unfortunately most buyers in this price point don't have the extra $35,000 to come in to cover what that gap would be from the appraisal value. So really happy that we appraised where we're at on this property. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you got value from this, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. And Allie, how can people find you if they want to work with you?
Instagram is great, Allie K. Flanagan. You can DM me there.
Awesome, phenomenal agent. Highly recommend, especially if you're looking to invest in Arizona, or if you're just a new home buyer in Arizona or want to sell your property in Arizona. She's the real deal. Make sure you give her a follow. Flanagan. Flipping Flanagan.